Hey folks, Dwayne from Grandpa's Garage, a little garage that could. I'm sorry it's been quite a while since I posted a video. Thought I'd bring you back up to speed on some of the progress I've made. Been very limited process, been some pretty significant family stuff going on, but wanted to start getting a few more videos going again and hopefully stir some interest. And with spring in the air, I hope everybody's getting anxious to get working on something or get out there and cruise around and enjoy the good weather while we have it. The last thing that I did here was actually worked on the driver's door. I got it into primer, and I'll show you what I did there. Okay, so you can see that definitely it's in primer, and some of my previous videos I was showing you how I use the stud gun to help pull some of the dents in there and get it straightened. I had to do a lot of hammer and dolly work to get it fairly close. The belt line was particularly challenging because of its configuration, but also it's not a straight line per se. It's actually got an arc to it, top to bottom and side to side. So that challenged me a little bit more, and there was a decent amount of welding that I had to do where there was cracks or fatigue cracking, I guess you call it, that I had to get straightened around. But I spent the time and got it cleaned up. Fits real nice. The top bow of the window, that of course was reshaped as it's shown in a previous video, and you had to re-weld that seam completely and file it and sand it and get it so it's fitting the opening properly. But yeah, so that was the door there. So the next piece that I was working on actually, and it was something that I'll bring you back over this way. There, the cowl section on this, I'll show you. From this area down to about there. This area right here and this area right here got hit really hard. It took a while to get it straightened to where it is now, and there's some internal bracing in there, and yeah, it's kind of a tough spot to get at, but yeah, maybe I'll bring you in just a little bit closer here and get a better idea. Now, I'm not sure if you can pick that up. There was a certain area where I was trying to get it reshaped. I had to try and do a bunch of shrinking on it, and unfortunately, because it's been hit so badly, and it was somebody had tried re-straightening it before I got it, and then I tried to get it straightened, and the metal rather gets they call it work hardening, where it just doesn't want to go back. It's lost the memory that it would normally have. If I wanted to spend a lot more time at it, I could probably get it and fix it, but I thought, you know what, it's just not worth it. So what I did was actually I have an additional front section that the cowl area was actually pretty decent on it. So I'll show you that, and then we'll mind my camera work. So this is the cowl section, and you can see that it was actually pretty decent. There's still a few little areas that are some minor denting, I guess but I've got it mostly straightened, and to me it's more than adequate for what I'm planning to do here. That a touch of filler won't hurt. Um, this is the original piece that was on the bottom. So off camera, I duplicated that and made this piece. Um, yeah, this had, a fair bit of rust in that bottom corner, and to try and patch that all in, it's not really worth it. You're better off just to make a whole new piece, and then it's done. It's all new metal. So today, what I'm going to be doing, I'll turn you around again. To practice on the camera work. So now what I want to do is actually come up with a game plan for cutting this section out. In my mind, I've more or less got it figured. It's going to take a little bit of grinder work and cutting and drill work. There's a bunch of spot welds on there that are going to have to be drilled out so I can get the panel off. And we'll go through it, and I'll try and explain as I'm going along, and try and get in there a little bit better, and hopefully you'll follow along and you'll get something out of this. Probably the first thing out of all this is just kind of look at it from both sides, outside and inside, and get a fairly decent idea of how you're going to approach it. But also don't be afraid. Like it's only metal, and this panel I could probably cut it out, take it off, and straighten it again, but why go to all that work when I've got another panel here, and it just simplifies things in my mind. So we're going to get going here. So first thing I'm going to do, grab that other panel actually. When I cut this off the other car, what I did is I cut it pretty much on an angle right at this line right here, all the way as tight as I could possibly get it. So now what my intention is to cut this not at the same spot, because that'll be impossible to line up, and it'll be just a pain for welding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down, a line down, make a cut there, and then I can put the panel up inside. Once the panel fits up inside, then I can scribe it and cut it exact, so we have a nice butt weld in there, and then that'll fit in real good. It'll take me a little bit of work, clean up all this flange here and along the bottom. On this back side here, I cut this so as to leave me a bit of length to play with, but also wanted to try and maintain this line that goes along here, which is part of the door gapping, and from the factory it's a nice consistent line that I wanted to maintain. If you cut it in a different spot, then you don't get that line, and it's very difficult to try and duplicate that. But also then this way, your cut is all on the inside flange here, so the outside just stays nice. There's no welding there, and at that point it's actually extremely strong with a weld in there because you have this corner bent here. Anytime you have a bend in a metal, it's super strong, like very, very difficult to damage it. So we'll get some stuff started here, and I think what I'm going to do is I just want to mask off where I'm going to cut this. See, there's going to be a little bit of straightening I'm going to have to do just to make the panel up, and then we'll clean up the flange and start drilling out those spot welds, those nasty spot welds. Yeah, there's a lot of damage in here. Just it would take so much time to try and straighten it that it's and you still also have a little bit of rust out at the bottom, and there's a big crack here. You know, it's just not worth the while to try and fix it. So what I'm going to do. All right, let's get this grinder set up, and we'll start getting this. There's some steel rivets at different points, and what I find works good for me anyways. If everybody's got some other way that works better, then that's good for them, and don't be afraid to share your thoughts on that, because maybe you can teach me something that I would save me a lot of headache. So what I usually do is I try to grind just the head of the rivet itself, so I can get kind of a flat spot, and then I can hit it with the drill and usually drill it out, and that seems to work pretty darn good for the most part. So I'm just going to get some safety glasses and get my hearing protection in. I think maybe it's not a bad idea to maybe put the exhaust fan on, just so that there's any dust created, which there will be, that it'll kind of pull it away from me, and I'll try to grab a face mask as well. Almost ready, folks. there you go. That works pretty well. Again, you know, some people have different ways of approaching this, so I'm always open to learning the new things. So for the time being, this is what I'll do. So. So some of these spot welds are fairly obvious to see, but some are not. So I usually like to clean things up a little bit just to expose those spot welds, and make it a little easier to pinpoint and drill out. So now what happens is, probably bring you in with the camera and you can get a better idea. And light on it too. Okay. Okay, so you can see now there's a number of spots. Spot right there, right there, right there, there. You know, sometimes I wonder if they really needed all those spot welds, or they just got paid, or they were bored and you just use the spot welder a lot more. But so all those now I have to drill through, and you try and drill just through the first skin, and then separate the panel. You don't want to go through both panels. The odd time you do regardless, but if you can avoid that, then it just makes it a lot easier for welding the new panel back on. And you can see I'm going to have to get back down underneath there, and that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get at, but we'll get it. It'll just take a little bit of time. So yeah, anyways, we'll put you back up on the camera and I'll start working at this. Back on the stand, I guess I should say. All right. The other thing I'm using, you've probably noticed before, I'm using my automatic center punch. That helps make it a lot easier for starting the drill bit in the spot you're trying to drill. So I think what I'm going to do now is going to take my grinder with a cutoff wheel and make a cut along this line here, and then I'll take and cut this portion of the panel here. As I said, with the replacement panel, I've got the overlap. This line here on this body actually it's mostly okay, but there's a few areas that they got damaged pretty bad. So the new panel will overlap that, and then we'll make a cut on the back side to make that up real nice. And then we'll try and loosen this area where the spot welds off. And then the only other thing is I have to get right down and do the flange that's on the bottom, which will be a bit of a pain, but that's a necessary part of the job. Okay, again, safety first. Let's put on some eye protection here. Actually, I think for this I'm going to put on my face shield. I always find that when I'm cutting stuff, especially if I'm cutting close to my eye level, that I've had a few trips to the doctor to get something removed. So we may as well not be inviting any more of those kind of episodes, because they hurt. Alright, that'll be more better. Backwards. Like that. All right, there we go. I think what I'll do is I'll kind of move the camera here a bit, just so maybe you can get a better view of what I'm doing. Kind of hard because I have to position myself in such a way to get at it. But these things are always a little bit of a headache to get started. Once you get them started, they're good. But just getting them started can be a bit of a headache. You got to pretty much just understand that it's going to get bent up a little bit and you'll have to do some straightening, but necessary part of the process. And we're going to change the bit here. So the chisel that I changed to now has a little bit of a bend in it, and that helps give you that maneuverability in here. The other one is straight, and it works really good because it's got a super sharp edge, but it doesn't give you much move adjustment. Steady downward. That's an awful lot of problems. Hey folks, Dwayne from Grandpa's Garage, a little garage that could. A little garage that has trouble with camera work, but we're still working at it. Anyways, thought I'd bring you in and show you that cowl section after I remove most of what has to be replaced. This is just rough cut. The top section here, that's where the masking tape was, and we left that so we have an overlap to fit the other panel. The section by the firewall, drilled out all the spot welds. Little bit of damage here and there when I was working in the one area. That's pretty much inevitable. And then of course in the bottom I still got to work at this some more. This is the very lower line of that panel. There's more spot welds to take out of there. And you can see a buildup of dirt and nonsense there. And that's why these panels tend to rot out. They got nowhere to go, like the dirt and driving down dusty old gravel roads or whatever gets in there, and moisture, and yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in there. You see there's, looks like a shim or something in there. Anyways, yeah, it's kind of an interesting adventure to come to this. So, next thing I'm going to do is I got to get a lot lower because I got to get that bottom piece off. So I'll put you back up on the camera stand, and it'll be kind of boring nonsense to watch, but I'll film it regardless, and then you can decide whether you want to watch it or not. I certainly wouldn't be offended by somebody not really wanting to watch that part because it's just boring. Either that, or maybe I can just bring you back, and once I'm starting to fit the panel, I think that might be a better bet. It's yeah, it's just going to be a pain in the butt here, so we'll be back. All right, folks. Hey, folks. Waiting from Grandpa's Garage, a little garage that could. You all missed a hell of a pile of fun cleaning up this whole area here. I'm going to use some rust treatment on it before I start doing any. There's a little bit of straightening, excuse me. It's just the operator that's strange. Anyways, just going to use some rust treatment on here. And what I use is Fast Etch from Eastwood. There we go. And basically it's an acid base, and it neutralizes any of the rust. I've taken on as much, or taken off as much as I can, and the neutralizer will basically stop it in its tracks. You clean it all up after, flush it, dry it, and then probably before I go to install the part itself, I'll put some paint on here, and the only place I won't will be on the flanges where it has to be welded. For that, I've got some weld-through primer. Weld-through primer is not meant to encapsulate an entire area. It's literally only meant for the areas where you're going to be welding. If you put it on these other areas, it won't dry. You'll just have a mess. So I find it easier just to hit this with a good 3-in-1 primer that has an acid base to it, but the area where the flange is, that area I'll just hit with the weld-through primer. So at the moment, I'm just going to treat this with the Fast Etch from Eastwood, and no, I don't get paid by them, but yeah, because once it's sealed up, then you can't really do much with it. So I figure just good to give it at least a fighting chance. It'll, I'm sure, far outlast me. This always looks a little nicer too when you're kind of putting things together. If it looks clean and you've got a coat of paint on it. I don't know about, some people don't mind the rust, I guess, but personally I like to have things good. Now the beauty of the fast etch, because it's an acid-based product, what it does is the surface of the metal, rust included, will be converted and it'll leave a zinc phosphate coating on it. So when you have a zinc phosphate coating on there, what that does is it gives you a rust protection. It rust proofs it per se. Then any paint that you happen to add on to it, then that'll just give you even further protection. Now with this stuff, which we do, we put it on, leave it for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or so, and once that's set, and you try and keep it moist looking, you don't want it to dry out because then it's just a headache to try and get it cleaned off after. Then we'll come back here, we'll actually use water to flush the excess off, clean it all up, wipe it down with some lacquer thinner. Once the lacquer thinner is completely flushed off, then you can hit it with your primer. And it works exceptionally well. I've used this stuff now for probably about 20 years. And I've never had a problem. I've never had anything come back on me using this product. So, if you're listening, Eastwood, hope you appreciate it. Anyways, we'll give this a little more the juice. And okay, so while that product is doing its magic, what I'd like to do is kind of trial fit the panel on here. Probably just straighten these couple little spots here first, get that done, and then we'll do a trial fit and start getting a game plan for cutting and fitment. Stop getting old. fast touch, what you're going to notice is, if you can see closely, there's spots where there's some corrosion that's starting, and it actually starts turning kind of a whitish gray. Then you know it's definitely working for you. So we're just going to hit it some more, and just like I say, you want it for the 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it is that you want to use it. If you keep it wet, then it keeps active. As soon as it gets dry, it stops being active. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put on a fresh grinder blade, cutting just a little. Gotta apologize, I'm having a couple technical difficulties today with the filming, so we're gonna have probably about part 4, part 5 by the time I'm all said and done here. But anyways, we'll carry on regardless, and hopefully we can cobble this together for a series, I guess. But for time being, I want to keep on trying to get this panel fit and ready to go. I rinsed all this off with water, and you can see how it's kind of started to turn a lot of areas that are gray and white, and that's right, and that's that zinc phosphate coating that I was telling you about. Let that dry now. I use the air hose to help dry it up. Once that's completely dry, I'll go over it with some lacquer thinner, and once that is flashed, then of course I can hit it with some primer. But in the meantime, I'll carry on with the fitting the panel so that we can get that all in place, and then once all the planets align, then we can clamp it and start tack welding it in place. Just a moment. So one of the challenges with a panel like this, because it's so darn convoluted, not sure if you can really tell, but it actually has a curve, so this way, but it also curves this way, and then this curves that way, but it's straight, and this curves that way and that way, and then you got all your edges and everything you got to try and line up. And by the door, I'm going to turn this is upside down, but you can see how that's got such a strong curve, but then it comes to a very narrow point here, and that's a real challenge to get that to fit into place. So yeah, you got to muck around with it. You got to take a flange and you got to kind of tweak it back a little bit, just so that you can slide it on there in order to make sure it's fitting tight against what was the original lead edge for the door. When that's fit and it's tight on there, then I can take the grinder with the cutoff wheel and do a double cut on there again. And what happens is, when the panel is sitting on here like this, it's actually spaced out from the door because it's up against this original flange. When you go through with the grinder and double cut it, the cut thickness is that difference. So it's within, I would say, probably like a 32nd of an inch, or a few thou or whatever. So it's really super close. But we can get it all pre-fitted in there, and I'll clamp it again and make a cut. And yeah, it just takes a lot of time to do these panels, but it's worth it in the end, because once you have it all done, lines up, looks good, it just makes your finishing a lot easier to do when you try to body work things. So I want to get this flange here. There's a couple spots where it needs to be straightened a touch, just so that when you go to fit the new piece on there, that it'll fit well. When you go through this process, if you've done it yourself before, you know that you wonder at the end of a job why you have so many tools out. And it's like every so often you gotta grab another tool and another tool and another tool. Before long, you gotta have your toolbox out. It's a back and forth thing on this kind of job.